Megan here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you guys how I edit my Instagram photos. I thought that I could do this video kind of with a twist because I feel like they're all kind of the same, you know what I mean? I'm going to be showing you guys two different ways that I edit my Instagram photos, one for my personal Instagram and one for the sorority Instagram that I follow. So I'm going to plug my own Instagram, which is Megan Kelleher with 2 N's. I post a normal amount. I'm not like super spammy like every other influencer because I'm not an influencer, that's the thing. Go give it a follow if you want to see my very normal life at UVA. If you guys didn't know, I'm a rising third year there. And then also I run our sorority's Instagram, which is at UVA Chi Omega. I am a member there and I am their media specialist, which means that part of my job is to run the Instagram. I've developed a kind of theme and stuff for our photos and actually kind of come up with my own presets. So we're gonna talk about that in a sec. Part 2 of this video that I also wanted to include, and I'll include timestamps in here if you're only interested in the editing or the sorority part, but I wanted to share some tips on how to run a sorority Instagram because I feel like there's literally, I think, like one video on YouTube like that. I wanted to do a whole video about that, but I figured that might be a little too niche to put it in here though, because I do want to share those tips with you guys. If you guys are new and like videos about photo editing or Instagram or anything like that, definitely subscribe down below. I'm trying to get more into editing and like tech stuff on this channel because like that is what I'm really interested in. So let's start with how I edit my Instagram photos. I need to grab my phone for this. If you guys want to see a part 2 about how I do all the sorority Instagram collages and promo and stuff like that, definitely let me know with a comment down below. I would make that video if you guys want to see it, but you know, that might be too niche again. So I use Adobe Lightroom to edit my photos. I do not pay for it. I just have the app on my phone. This is completely free. I highly recommend it if you guys are looking to really fine-tune your photos. Opening up Lightroom, I literally have 429 photos in here. I edit all my photos in here. I took these selfies last week because I was honestly bored. So I'm going to take off all of the edits. On my own personal Instagram, my editing is very warm. It's very like trendy, I guess, that like that's what most people are doing. I've toned it down significantly. My skin used to be like bright orange and now it's like a nice tan, you know what I mean? The Chi O Instagram is very cool tone, very like a muted light blue. For both Instagram accounts, I use presets just because I find that's a really easy starting off point. I purchased the ones for my own personal Instagram. They are from Khaki Kirk. She was doing some deal on her presets. I want to say I got these for like $15-20 for a pack of 5, which is honestly like just such a great deal. These are just amazing presets and super high quality. So if you guys are looking for any warm toned presets, I will leave her down below. My favorite is Essential Go-To. I think it adds the right amount of warmth for what I'm going for, but it's not like too warm, you know what I mean? So I'll put that on. Then I go and adjust the exposure. Recently I've been going for a little bit more of an exposed picture. I'll just adjust the contrast. Recently I've been bringing that down a little bit, messing with the highlights. And then when I go into color, I bring down the temperature probably halfway between where it was before and 0, just so that it's a little less warm, but it still has that warmth in the photo. It kind of neutralizes it a little bit. I didn't used to do that though, so that's why my older pictures are a lot warmer. In the mix, I will go into saturation and bring that down for orange if I look too orange, and then luminance. You bring that up, your skin's gonna look lighter, and you bring that down, your skin's gonna look darker. That's only with the orange on the color mix. That's kind of what I do to adjust my skin tone. If I feel like I look like pale, I'll bring it down a little bit. If I think I look too orange, I'll bring down the saturation. Editing my own Instagram photos is honestly very simple, very straightforward. Let me show you guys on a different photo too, because obviously not every photo is the same, and I really want to emphasize presets are not filters. You have to change it per photo. Some people do not understand that, I feel like. Photo here is what I used on one of my last thumbnails. It's the phone declutter one. I'm just putting on Essential Go-To again because that's my essential go-to. And as you can see, it looks very dark and very orangey and almost brown in a lot of places. So what I want to do is bring up that exposure, and since I'm editing like I would for a thumbnail, I want it really exposed, maybe even bordering on overexposed, and I always bring down the contrast. Obviously I still want some contrast in there. Mess with the highlights, the shadows, and the blacks and the whites. That looks about where I want it. And then I can also bring down the temperature a little bit. It kind of emphasizes the blue, and I really like the way that the blue looks on this when I bring down the temperature a little bit. I've noticed that in a lot of my photos and thumbnails especially, I have blue in the background, so I really try to match that. And then bringing down the tint a little bit to make it greener rather than pink will take away some more of that warmth and kind of helps to cool down the photo a little bit. Maybe I'll mess with the orange. But you also don't want your hand like looking weird. I don't know. That's how I edit my own personal Instagram photos and my thumbnail photos. It's super simple, and honestly, I haven't really changed too much. It's just a couple steps. It usually takes me like 30 seconds. For Kayo, I originally bought a pack of 5 presets, and to be honest, they were really I worked with one of them that I liked the best, kept adjusting certain settings, and so I just made my own preset with the way that I liked the photos edited. Now I use that preset on all these photos, but I still definitely make a lot of adjustments just because every single photo is different and I want to make sure the look matches across all of them. Okay, well, I just recorded a whole portion and it wasn't screen recording, so that's great. I love that. That's my favorite. Originally, I wasn't going to use any photos with anyone's faces in it, which is like, that's every photo. But I'm just going to cover up this girl's face in case she doesn't want to be in the video and still get the point across. This photo has both blue and green, which is how I like to match in the Kayo feed, just because the way that I edit the blues and the greens are very specific. And so if those are the same throughout the feed, even if the photos like don't fit the theme, it still kind of all works together. So that is my secret on that. I'll show you guys the before and the after. It's just a big difference of like the blues are very bright, the whites are very bright. Photo looks like a normal photo. The sky is really blue. This is on midday. First thing I do is put on the preset just because I want to see what we're working with. And to be honest, with this photo, it's like pretty good. Like it looks pretty much how I like. First thing I do always is go into light and I adjust the exposure, the contrast. I always bring the contrast down in these photos just because that's what I like and that's the look I'm going for. The highlights I'll bring up if I need to. The shadows I always brighten to a point. If you brighten the shadows too much, it can look a little grainy and just kind of like not great. You know how some sorority photos are just like so bright that they look funny? Then going into color, I will adjust to see if it can go cooler or if it should stay warmer. Obviously, I don't want a warm toned photo just because that's not what we're going for. I don't do the tint right away. I usually leave that at 0, but later on, if the photo looks funny or it's not working, the pink tint can really help warm up the photo. Green tint helps cool down. Single-handedly, the key to matching all your photos, making sure that your photos are precisely edited, is going into the color mix. Go in through every single color and adjust every single thing to make sure it is perfect, which sounds like a pain, which sometimes it can be. So I like the pink to be a little more muted, even though I love pink. Not really what we're like showcasing in this photo, or that's red, sorry. Orange is where you adjust the skin tone. So if you go to the right, you get more green, to the left, you get more red. I try to do it around in the middle for the hue. That sets like the tone of the color, whereas saturation increases the intensity, and the luminance, I'm not sure what it does. What I like to do for skin tones is make sure the saturation is to the point where people look healthy, but not like orange or an Oompa Loompa, like a lot of sorority Instagrams look like. Then I go into the luminance. That's how I like to make myself look more tan naturally and not just like orange. Yellows actually really affect the greens, so I try to decrease the saturation of the yellows just because I want to be editing only the greens for the trees. For greens, what I do is I bring the hue all the way up to 100, saturation all the way down to -100, and luminance all the way up to +100. That kind of gives me a good starting point. That's about how I like it to look. I don't really mess with the teals too much until I mess with the dark blue. I always bring the hue back to 0, and that is how I get the sky to look how I want. I always set the hue there. I will go in and adjust the saturation depending on the photo. I don't want it to be like a white sky, but I also don't want it to be super blue. That's not what I'm going for. We're going for muted pastels almost. I feel like purple and pink aren't in many photos, and also it doesn't really impact the feed, so I just pretty much keep it according to the preset. But yeah, that's how I edited this picture. Here is before and after. So I will have all those presets linked down below for y'all for you to shop if you are so inclined. However, the Etsy preset, like I said, didn't quite work at first. I really had to tweak it, but if you can create your own preset off like $35 presets, then do it. Okay, so on to part 2 of this video. So if you're interested in managing a sorority Instagram, you want to know what it's like, how it can compare to managing a business Instagram or something like that, I feel like these tips are very applicable. Some of these tips are sorority specific, but I feel like you could learn something either way. First of all, how I plan content. This is the magic question. I feel like I don't have to think too hard about planning content. My goal for Kayo is to post 1 to 2 times a week. I know sorority Instagrams that post far more. Some of them post almost every single day, which stresses me out to no end. I feel like our chapter likes the 1 to 2 times a week. I see chapters who post 1 to 2 times a month. I don't want to do that either. Also, those are just the feed posts. Story posts, I feel like you can do whenever and as many as you want. They're really fun and a good way if you don't want to post it on the feed or you have a lot of photos or something like that. Story is a good option too. Sometimes if there's an event, that makes it really easy for me. So if we just had a date function, we had like girls do something. I actually did a series during quarantine called 4th year shoutouts. So I created that content. I sourced out getting all the shoutouts for everyone, collecting the photos, doing all that. So like that was a lot of content that I had to deal with, and that's kind of like an idea. But honestly, generally I base it around what's going on in the sorority, but also if I'm unsure or I want to post a throwback picture, but I'm like not sure where to start, I will look at other sorority Instagrams, both from UVA, but also Chi Omega chapters across the country. That's kind of how I get some inspiration. Also on stories and stuff, I like to keep it fun. Just think of new creative ways to involve the chapter too. So like I'll do a like shout out a sister or something. Another thing for content planning is throughout the year, girls have sent me photos that I haven't posted. So what I actually do is I have a folder for that. It's called Kayo Insta Options. Any photos I don't use when people send them for posts or whatever, I will keep them in there. If I'm ever uninspired or I want something to post, or I'm like, oh, Ellen sent me that one game day photo, like where is that? I'll go through that folder and look for it. 2 other folders that I highly recommend if you are running an Instagram for a business or a sorority is to have a to edit folder and an edited / to post folder. This is really helpful, especially for when I was doing the 4th year shoutouts. I was gathering photos from all over. It wasn't all at the same time. And so what I do was I put all the photos that I need to edit in that folder. Then when I go into Lightroom, I just pull them from that to edit folder, and then I'll save them immediately in the to post folder. This is really great, especially if you're going to post them a week later and you're like, I have 25, 30, 100 photos before them. It's just good to have them all in one place. Just makes your life easier. Recently, with the events going on surrounding George Floyd, we actually posted about that. Obviously, we had stories with resources and everything, and then also we set up a GoFundMe. So creating graphics for that and other things, I use Canva. That is just what's easiest to me. It's free and I don't have Photoshop, so that's really great. They have templates. That's how I created the George Floyd graphics, but also how I created the 4th year shoutout graphics too. Something else I used Canva for was when our new exec was officially official. So basically every year we have an exec highlight on the Instagram where you can go and click. Highlights I think are extremely important, especially for recruitment. If girlies are stalking your Instagram to get some tea on the chapter, be like, what is this all about? Are these girls cool? You pop through the highlights. We got so many highlights in ours. That's honestly more thanks to Maddie than me. You can make as many or as little of these as you want, but I think it's a good way for people to stalk your profile and have little cute highlight covers and just see what you're all about. So a couple things that I've learned about actually running a sorority Instagram is if you look at the feed, I really try to incorporate different aspects of what it means to be a Kayo. When Maddie ran the Instagram, I think that honestly she did this better than me, but I always could notice when I looked at the feed, okay, here's like a picture from a date function, so like we're fun. Here's a picture from like an academic thing, wow, we're smart, we're involved. And then like another thing of someone doing like an extracurricular or just sisters hanging out in Carter's Mountain. Like all of these things come together, it creates this cohesive picture where we're not just one thing, we're not just going to date functions, we're not just doing our extracurriculars, we're not just like in Kayo. That's something that I've really been trying to incorporate, is making us look well-rounded, and then also always trying to add value with the captions. Now nothing needs to be like super crazy inspirational or anything, but just like making sure that it all ties back to the well-roundedness of the chapter. Another thing that gets people really excited is different series. So like I said, I did the 4th year shoutout series, we have the exec series, we have like the Make-A-Wish series. So whether it be through highlights or the shout out a sister thing, like just finding different things, which honestly you can just look to other chapters for that. if you're kind of stuck on what to do, just so that the chapters involved, they're excited about the Instagram, and then girls looking in can see y'all be yourselves and they think you're really cool. Something that is very important in posting is taking stock of who is in your pictures, especially in a sorority where there's probably like what, 160, 170 girls. There's a lot of people, but generally the same people will send you photos, and so it's hard to balance who you're getting photos from and who you're posting, because you don't want to be posting the same 10 people or the same people from your friend group or anything, but also it's a hard balance if they're the only ones sending you photos. Something I've tried to do to combat that is, one, always look at the feed before I post and make sure that the person I'm posting or the people I'm posting haven't been in the feed super recently or featured or something like that. Like, I want to make sure it's pretty evenly distributed. If I see a sister post a picture, oh my gosh, that rhymed. If I see them post a picture that I like or I think would be good on the Instagram, do not be afraid to text them and be like,
"Hey girl, I just saw your photo, you're so cute, like, love to put it on the Instagram."
I've done that so many times and everyone is always like, they're like, "Oh, really? Me? Okay." They're super flattered. And my last tip for sororities in specific is to make sure before recruitment, making sure like recruitment week, you are just like hitting it right before. It actually depends what the rule is at your school. So our inter-sorority council has said we can't post at all during recruitment, which I think is honestly totally fine. At other schools you can. Those people have like a different strategy, but for us, we're really pushing out a lot of posts like the last like couple weeks before recruitment, because girls who are rushing, they're probably sitting at home at winter break, they're like, oh my gosh, wait, I'm doing rush soon, like maybe I should look at the sororities. They'll go to your page, see all your highlights, see your posts, and they're like, dang, these girls are cool, I'll keep them in mind. That's how that works. I've been talking for a very long time, and those are all the tips that I have to share today. So if you guys liked this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. Like I said, I'm interested in doing how to make like collages and sorority like promo and stuff like that. So if you guys are interested in that, definitely subscribe down below. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.